What's up, everybody? This is Brad, and I want to talk a little bit about the thing that's been going around for the last several days while I was on vacation. And it is 2022. Has started off with Square Enix's president or CEO, whichever one. I think it was president. Decided to announce that the company is going to go all in on NFTs in the future and the metaverse, and I'd assume crypto because that's where a lot of the NFTs values are supposed to be. And this is just stupid. Like, what else am I supposed to say? Everybody who's already commented on these things and learning actually how NFTs and crypto works, like, it's complicating something that doesn't need to be complicated. Like, it's also kind of ironic. People were pointing out that one of Square's most recent games is struggling with its servers at the moment because there's a shortage of a certain tech. I'm blanking on it right now, and I don't know what's wrong. But anyway, I'm blanking on exactly what the issue is. I could try to pull that up, but anyway, there's this game out for Square. I think it's something to do with Final Fantasy, but apparently their servers are struggling, and it's tied to tech shortages that are also tied to these crypto dudes who are buying up, I guess, a GPU something. I'm the actual words for this are escaping me in the moment, but there's a lot of hardware shortages, and it's hurting them. So why would you invest in something that is hurting you? I just don't understand. And the funny thing about this is that, like, Steam just recently announced they were banning any game that implements NFTs. Now, Steam's a pretty big deal. But apparently, Epic is going to welcome their NFT games on their stores, which might explain why a lot of Square Enix games have been headed to the at the Epic Games Store. So it just, this whole NFT thing is just dumb, because the thing is, what you're paying for is a receipt. As people have pointed out time and time again, the NFT, when you buy it, and they're not cheap, these Bored Apes or whatever all these other current things are, I think Bored Ape is the most popular one, or the most well-known one. But when you buy this thing, you're not actually buying the image. You don't own the image. You own a link on a server that says you own the image. That's it. Now, that's not going to keep people from having the image. Anybody can save an image and save it on their computer. But the link says it is. Now, what happens if that server goes down? Well, you don't own it anymore. Or that proof, that receipt you have just got destroyed. And you paid 20, 30, 40, well, however much, thousands of dollars, because I've seen, like, the most recent big purchase I saw that people were talking about was Eminem bought one for like $460,000. So almost $500,000 this guy spent on a receipt to say he owns this particular monkey drawing that looks just like every other monkey drawing, with the exception of some minor little differences. It's all this is like flexing your wealth. That's it. It's just to brag that you could afford this extremely expensive thing. And now Square wants to bring this concept into gaming. You know, a industry that gamers don't actually complain a lot about how exploitive it is, and how much money gamers spend on games, and how much DLC costs, and the absolute hatred of loot boxes. What are these guys thinking? Gamers are constantly complaining about the price of stuff. And now you want this to be something like the idea I've seen being pushed, and it doesn't seem to actually come from gamers, by the way. It seems to come from a lot of the crypto fandom, if you want to call it that. It genuinely seems like the people pushing for NFTs in games is not coming from people who play video games regularly. Or even casually. It just seems like they're guys who are... It seems like they're people who are super invested in crypto and want to find some other way to make money. It's all about the money. It's the same thing with the NFT. The entire appeal of owning an NFT is the idea that you'll sell it later and make money off of it. Until eventually, whoever's left holding it at the end is the one who's screwed. So you have to hope. So when you do buy this thing, you have to hope that somebody's going to come behind you and say, I'll pay you more than you had for that. Because they are intending to up the price when they sell it next time. Eventually, you're left holding the bag. It's like that Mario Party game where the bomb is on fire, or the bomb is lit, and the last one holding it, when it explodes, gets ejected from the minigame. That's just what this is. Because eventually, your NFT is going to become so expensive that nobody wants it. And it's very similar to what's going on with the whole retro video game controversy, where recently some very some older video games, like the NES games, have been selling for insane prices. Like what was the big one? Like a copy of Super Mario 64, I think it was, sold for like $1.5 million. Like, that game's not... At least in that case, you're buying a physical item. But as people have looked into, a lot of these big retro game sales or some of them are from people who are buying and selling it to themselves solely to increase the price of it or increase the supposed wealth of the game. So it's a big scam. And I think, if I remember the video, I think it's from Carl Jobst, I think is who was covering it. I hope I said his name right. Anyway, he's talked about this on the channel or on YouTube before, and the thing about that is that they tried to do this with like a Spider-Man game, an old Spider-Man game, and somebody bought it for like a lot of money, and then it turns out that game is actually quite common, and soon the internet was flooded with requested sales for the game, and it became pretty much worthless because of how many copies of the game were suddenly out for sale. And people were like, why would I pay thousands of dollars for this game? Like, everybody seems to have it. It's not a rare game. Well, oopsie. You just sort of tipped your hand there that, guess what? All this stuff is not as on the up and up as it seems. But anyway, the idea is that if you buy an NFT of an in-game item, you'll be able to take that with you to other games and use it in other games. Even if you get banned from the game, or the game you got the original item from is shut down for whatever reason. That's not how gaming works. That's not how programming items works. You can't just take assets from one game and just put them into another one. It doesn't work that way. Not for it to actually function as it would, because games are programmed differently. You can't just take this as it is and put it in another game. There would have to be all sorts of other changes to the programming and coding and everything that would need to take place to make that actually work. You can't just say, you can't play Halo and suddenly have Link's Master Sword in there and have it work as it would in The Legend of Zelda. That would require Microsoft to program the Master Sword into Halo. so that if somebody were to bring that over, then the programming would exist to accompany it. But that's something that would have to happen. So what would have to happen, in order for that kind of thing to happen, one, Nintendo and Microsoft would have to both agree that the Master Sword is functional within Halo as it would be in Zelda. Nintendo would have to work out a deal with them to say that the Master Sword can appear outside of Nintendo games. If anybody is familiar with the state of Samus Aran's appearance in Fortnite, that was long rumored, and at this point was confirmed that was in the plans for Fortnite, was to have Samus appear alongside Master Chief and Kratos, as those two represented Xbox and PlayStation respectively. Nintendo said no. So no, you don't get Samus in Fortnite. Nintendo didn't want to. Most likely because they didn't want Samus to be a character you could see or play as off of a Nintendo console because of the way Fortnite works. Fortnite is cross-platform with PC, Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. And my guess is that Nintendo saw, like, well, we're going to put Samus in the item shop of all of those platforms, and we'll give people who play on the Switch specifically an alternate version of her to use. And Nintendo was like, no, we don't want that, if I had to guess. Which seems to fit their idea of how their characters should be. They don't want Nintendo characters appearing outside of the Nintendo console. I think that's kind of silly, but whatever. I mean, if you make money off of it, if Nintendo's going to profit off of it, just say yes. I mean, even Disney was willing to put Sora in Smash, even though that was apparently very difficult and took a very long time to work out. But again, that goes back to my point that you can't just inject something and say, like, oh, I bought the Master Sword, which, again, was like, it's also, like, slow down a little bit. The idea also accompanies the idea that if you buy the Master Sword in Fortnite and in Zelda as an NFT, then you or a very small number of people would own that Master Sword. And you'd have to sell it to people who would be willing to buy it from you. So either you unlock it and it's extremely rare and limited, which is what they want NFTs to be. It wants digital scarcity, which is dumb. Why would you want that? Why would you want to make something digital extremely hard to find? That's why people emulate games. That's why people want games to stick around. They don't want old games to fade away. They want them to be available for everyone, so that everyone can experience the game. Instead, the crypto guys come in and are like, hey, let's actually make things limited in games intentionally. But anyway, I don't know, I'm jumping all over the place, and I just get, this is just such a dumb thing for people to suggest, and for Square's CEO to say, like, yeah, this is a great idea. And it even accompanied a statement, let me see, where is it? There was a comment about games being fun. The statement said something about, here it is. One part of the response literally just kind of scoffs at the idea, or maybe the idea that people who play video games for fun is a dying, like, I guess they're a dying breed. Here the quote directly says, I realize that some people who play to have fun and who currently form the majority of players have voiced their reservations towards these new trends, and understandably so. So that in and of itself is a confirmation that people who are sketchy of NFTs, crypto, and this metaverse concept, their concerns are just. That's what he's saying, openly. They're like, yeah, people have every reason to not want to like, or to not like this. Let's continue. However, I believe that there will be a certain number of people whose motivation is to play to contribute, by which I mean to help make the game more exciting. That means there are going to be people who come along with lots of money. I guess I would assume it would have to be real money, and crypto too, who will come along, buy everything, and then sell it to players. So what you'll have is a bunch of rich dudes come along, buy up all the good assets if this works, and then sell it for a profit to players who really, really want it. So here comes old Richie Rich, who doesn't really care about video games. He comes in and with his money bags, Richie Rich, Scrooge McDuck, all these rich guys come in, buy up all the good assets in your game for, let's say they collectively spend $1 million. Well, they're going to sell these good assets to you and collectively leave. So they came in, they dumped $1 million into this game to buy up all the good assets. Then they'll leave and abandon the game with $2 million in their pocket. Now the gamers get their little helpful items, which again, that's pay to win, and gamers hate that. Again, this is a complete endorsement of everything that gamers hate. They hate high prices. They hate stuff like loot boxes and play to win. They hate digital scarcity. And Square's just like, actually, we're going to go with it. We think this will be fun. This will be exciting. It's not fun because he said the game would be more exciting. It just makes the game work. And what happens when some of these items are necessary for a particular and by the way, this would all function with real money or crypto or whatever. It's not in-game money that you just earn by, like, say, like in Zelda, you chop down a piece of grass and some rupees come out of it, or you throw you find a random chest laying around and there, ooh, here's some free money just laying out on the ground. No, they want you to spend real money on this. So what happens when there's a very rare item that you really need in order to complete something within said game? Oh, you got to go spend real money just to continue the game. Boy, it sounds kind of like DLC, which is something that people don't complain about all the time when it costs a lot of money. I just don't get it, man. And like I said, one, you don't even own the NFT. You own a receipt. And the only reason that people get this is so they can sell it later. That's why I don't like the collector community or the collection community, whatever they call themselves. Like, so many people get into collecting not to collect, but to sell. And I don't like that. I complained about that when I said these people were buying these old retro games for thousands and thousands of dollars and maybe even jumping into millions. I was like, I don't like that because the people doing that, the people who have that much money aren't doing it because they love games. They're doing it because they think they'll get some money out of it later. And it seems to be against the idea of being a fan of something in the first place. I'm not going to go buy a piece of Mario merch specifically to sell it later. Why would you buy something you don't want? I mean, that's the way I see it. If you're buying something strictly for the investment and the idea that you're going to get rid of it later, like, why even buy it? I mean, these are all ideas from people who believe that money should control everything. And you know what? It's going to exactly happen if this kind of thing happens. It's like I said, you'll have people come in and it's going to be taken over by whoever has the most money. Which is how, like, capitalism pretty much works. Whoever has the most money is the most powerful and controls everything. Let's bring this into video games. You know, the thing that people don't use as a means of escapism from the real world and its sorrows and miseries. And it wouldn't even work. Like stuff like you think Nintendo's going to let you take Mario into Halo or God of War? No. And the limitations would basically mean that every game has to be very programmed and work in a very similar way for the assets to all be interchangeable. And to keep that going, by the way, think of how much, like, you would basically be cutting the number of games you get, by the way, too. Because in order to keep all that stuff active and keep every single NFT that people buy functional, you'd have to reduce the number of games made just so they can all interact with each other. Like, look at Super Smash Brothers. I mean, this is a little bit different, I think. It's not a perfect comparison. But, like, Sakurai has said 100 times that the current roster for Smash Ultimate is basically a miracle and will probably never happen again. Because of all the right stars had to align in order for him to get every character in the old games back into this last one, as well as the super unlikely chance that Sora was going to come to the game. Every star had to align perfectly to make that happen. And they're even suggesting, like Sakurai's even suggesting now that this really could be the last Smash Brothers, or it could be his last Smash Brothers at least. And you may not ever get a new Smash game. But the idea that you could just carry things over and it'll work, no, he's said this countless times. Even though Sakurai is highly trusted and respected within the industry, things sometimes just don't work out. Sometimes companies don't want to. Sometimes companies just can't agree on something. Like, as much financial sense as it makes for Fortnite and Nintendo to work together to put Samus in a very popular game that would likely also help the sales of Metroid by having Fortnite players get a chance to play as Samus in their game, it would benefit both games. But guess what? Nintendo didn't want to do it. So it didn't happen. And the idea, like, again, of making, like, cosmetics and stuff, like, limited is dumb. I've said this several times. For Fortnite, yeah, people will spend lots of money on Fortnite skins. But you know why? It's because they like the skins visibly. You can't sell the skins. Selling accounts is actually against their terms of service, which is interesting. If you sell your Fortnite account, that can get your account banned, but they're going to welcome NFTs. Seems kind of contradictory there. But people get the skins that they like because they like them. The skins in Fortnite don't offer you an advantage over anyone. And in the inadvertent advantage that some players get, like with the superhero skins, where if you set your skin tone to solid black, it can blend, or something like that. I think it was solid black. There was there were some skins in Fortnite, if I'm trying to remember it correctly. I think if you set it was customizable. If you set it to solid black, then you could blend in with shadows in the game, and it gave people an unfair advantage. So they went back and they fixed it to where you can't have that color combination in the game anymore. Because it was unfair. You couldn't see the players, and it was pay to win. So it's just insane to see the company of a huge game, and especially, like I've said, like with the crypto guys, Square's servers are suffering. They're suffering. There's hardware they need they can't get because the crypto bros have bought up so much tech or so much hardware so they can mine Bitcoin. Like, if you've ever seen one of these mining setups, it will infuriate you. Because one, it's like running all these computers constantly, plugging random numbers in attempts to mine Bitcoins, and you realize how many hundreds of computers they're running at one time. Maybe even thousands of computers they're running at one time just to mine Bitcoin. And you realize that to do that would cost you tons of money. So only the rich really can afford to mine Bitcoin. But I don't understand it. The best you can hope for in these kinds of situations for an NFT is that similar game, like you could take one Square token from one game to another Square game. The idea of all these games being interactable or having that ability to trade stuff between themselves, between different developers, it's just not going to happen. And it limits the creativity because, okay, you got to make sure that your item is fully operational outside of its own game. And so if you move a Zelda item to Halo, Microsoft has to program the Zelda item to Halo, and that's going to require more programming because guess what? If it's one Zelda item is going to be in Halo, then all the Zelda items have to be in Halo. All the Kingdom Hearts, like you got to take the Keyblade in there too, so you got to program all the Keyblades to make sure they function correctly. And that's just from 2 games. Say you buy a Fortnite thing, you want to take the Halloween pumpkin launcher that you bought in that game. Well, you got to make sure that pumpkin launcher is playable in Halo 2. And not just Halo, but all the Microsoft games. It just... No. There's no need for this. The only people who seem to actually want it are people outside of gaming and people who have money to blow and are looking to get more money out of blowing the money they have. It's just wealthy people flexing their wealth. And the idea that this is going to be some sort of revolutionary new thing for gaming when it completely just like, we love all the bad things about gaming and the gaming industry that gamers hate. I just don't get it. So I've talked enough about this. I've rambled and I probably said some of the same thing more than once. But that's what I think. I think NFTs are stupid. I've said this countless times. It seems like somebody... I posted this on Twitter this morning, but it seems like somebody watched Sword Art Online and saw Kirito be the lone character in the game to get dual wielding and thought, you know what? Let's turn this into a real concept that we can buy and sell for real money. And again, the problem with that is when everything is based around money, the people who are the richest will control it all. So yeah, you think you want to make dual wielding something you can buy and sell in the real world across multiple games, like in reality. But what happens when suddenly, again, Richie Rich and Scrooge McDuck are back here trading back and forth. Dual wielding is a skill for $10,000. Now it's $25,000. Now it's $50,000. Oh, well, guess what? Scrooge McDuck is going to wait for somebody to come along and offer him $75,000. And then Scrooge McDuck gets his $75,000 of bales. And then you have dual wielding, but nobody's going to be willing to buy that from you. You're out $75,000. And then the game goes offline, and now you don't have that skill anymore. Or maybe that skill came from a Zelda game and Nintendo doesn't want to have their skill in a Halo game. So, oopsie daisy, $75,000 gone. And Scrooge McDuck is the one who didn't even care about the game in the first place, but he's made a profit off of it. But you might still own the link that says you own that skill. Can't use it, but you own it. I don't know, man. Like, I'm sure there's a lot more, like, technical stuff in there that I didn't touch. But, because a lot of this stuff is still very complicated to me. But it just, I've always said that, like, crypto and NFTs, it's like people are buying fake goods with fake money. Because none of it's regulated, and that's another supposed like big appeal of NFTs and crypto is that because it's unregulated, it's better because the government doesn't have a say in it. Well, they had the same. That was had a very similar thing happen with microtransactions, and when enough people complained about how predatory and unfair loot boxes were, government started passing laws saying that you can't do this. Now there are certain countries where loot boxes are illegal. So, yeah, you think like a government's going to just sit back and let people like create a currency alternative to the one that the government officially recognizes? No. Especially considering if you look at all like these NFT guys who like, I thought like there was recently one that went viral on Twitter where he was like, I just got screwed out of my Bored Apes that I bought because I thought I was talking to someone, and so I gave them the key to my digital wallet so they could get the money, and now I don't have them anymore because it was a scam. Like, now the blockchain says that you don't own that anymore. So now what? The blockchain is supposed to be the absolute authority. Whoever the blockchain, whatever the blockchain registers as the appropriate owner of said NFT, that's the end of it. And because you were dumb and didn't know what you were doing, and because this is all unregulated and there's no way to keep track of it, like I just don't get it. Like I said, it like you're just playing with fire. I mean, and why would anybody invest in like crypto anyway? And Elon Musk says something like who? What was it like? Well, there was some crypto that somebody tweeted to Elon Musk once and was like, hey, how much, I think it was like maybe Shiba or like one of the Shiba Inu coins. I don't know. Like, you can just create stuff. By the way, like the first like Dogecoin or whatever it was, the first actual crypto was created sort of as a joke, and then people took it and turned it into real. Like a real, like tried to pass it off as a real currency. And the guy was like, we did this as a joke. And people just yeah, let's do this for real. So the original like creator of cryptocurrency said like, no, we did this as like a gag. So yeah, that's how stupid people are. But like Elon Musk said something like, somebody asked him, how much do you have in this particular crypto? And I think the crypto was doing fairly well at the time. He said none. And the value dropped. It plummeted. Because one dude, the richest guy on the planet, said he didn't invest in that particular crypto. The value dipped. Now, I think it may have recovered immediately afterwards, or when, at least I can't remember. But why would you want something like that to happen? Why would you want to be in a position where one person says they don't like your product and the entire value just craps out? It's the same thing with like when Donald Trump was president. If he didn't like something a particular company would do, he would put out a tweet dunking on the company, and then the company's stock market value would just plummet. Because he's the president. One powerful individual said something negative about something, and it just causes chaos. Why would you want that? All controlled by rich powerful, why? And you want to bring this into video games. I don't ask much from my video games other than they be fun to play. If I want to make money off of video games, then yes, I have a YouTube channel. I do want to be able to monetize my content, but I don't want to, not in the same sense that I want to be able to sell in-game assets to other players for astronomical amounts of money. No. Again, this is going to be something that it just ends up being controlled by very wealthy people. When everything you're basing your lifestyle on, or your project on, is, or whatever you want to call it, whatever, is centered around how much money you have, then the very wealthy are always going to swoop in and take control. How fun is that going to be? How fun is it going to be when all these people who are super rich and have money to blow, and they're looking to flex that wealth, come in and buy up all your good assets, and then you've got to pay more than they paid to get them, and they start selling them to each other to drive up the price, and it's unregulated, so there's nothing you can do. You just have to do without the good assets. And a lot of these guys will just buy them, have them, and they're not going to use them. They're there solely to own them, with the idea that they'll sell them later. So what happens when somebody who's desperate to be seen and look cool, who can't really afford to pay $50,000 for this really cool, unique sword, but decides not to pay his bills or take any extra money he's put aside, maybe for like some kind of emergency, health related or not, whatever. And now you've screwed yourself. Like, you paid $50,000 for the sword. You didn't need to do it, but it was the only way you could get this really good sword. When normally, like if in a regular game, you just play, you put in the work, and you can unlock the sword on your spare time. May not make any money by unlocking the sword. Get paid $60, $70, whatever, $100 for the sword. But at least you didn't have to pay $50,000 just to take it from somebody who may not have even wanted it in the first place and was solely waiting for somebody to come along to give them that $50,000. And now you've got to hope you can sell it for more than $50,000 at some point to get your money back if you need it. But what if somebody's not willing to buy that from you? What if $50,000 was the absolute most anybody was willing to do that? Well, now you're stuck with this really cool sword, though. It's like, do people not realize that, like when Microsoft tried to up the price of games with gold at the start of the pandemic, it got such backlash that they actually said, we're not going to do this. And not only that, we're going to take back the limitation of having to have Xbox games with gold, or Xbox Live, whatever it was. You won't have to actually pay for Xbox Live in order to play free-to-play games on Xbox now. So they not only didn't do what they said they were going to do, they actually took away an additional limitation that they had previously set. Some game recently was really popular, announced they were going to do NFTs, and the backlash was so great that they canceled it. I said earlier, Steam announced that no, any game featuring NFTs will be banned on our platform. And I do think that game that got such backlash for announcing NFTs was going to be on Steam. And so people were wondering how that was going to play out, but luckily the game has since backtracked. So, yeah. I think if any game is going to implement NFTs, I probably won't play it. And I've already seen a few people saying, like, here's some NFT games that are out. They're like fighting games. I can't remember I can't remember. It was something on Twitter, but there's apparently a series of NFT fighting games, and if you look, they all use the same basic like open source like files, and so they all play exactly the same, so that you can trade the NFTs between them. And they're all really cheaply made. So they're low budget goods. They're all almost identical to each other. Like even like I think the fighting stances in the screenshots from from like 3 different NFT fighting games, they all look like they're extremely similar. They're all meant to be just interchangeable so that you can say that you can move one to the other. It's just not, it's dumb. It's not necessary. And again, so I can finally end this 40-minute video, NFTs in video games embraces every single thing about the gaming world that gamers hate. So to act like this is the future, the inevitable future of games, it just seems like you're willing to tank your company because you think that the rich are going to come in and make you even more money. Because guess what? These companies aren't going to get into NFTs unless they think that it's going to make them more money than not having NFTs will. Even though the games industry during the pandemic was one of the few industries that did not suffer. Because a lot of people decided to stay home for as long as they could, so they bought a bunch of video games to play while they were at home. So, and again, I'll bring this up whenever I need to. Nintendo is Japan's most profitable company. The gaming industry is not hurting. Some of these games make hundreds of millions of dollars. One game. So they're not hurting. They don't need more money. They're just going to go with whatever will get them the most money that they think possible. Oh, this NFT thing, nobody really likes it. It encompasses everything that gamers hate about gaming and the gaming industry, but it'll make us more money if we do it, so let's do it. Everyone will hate us, but we'll be richer. I don't know. I've said enough. I probably forgot to say some of the things I wanted to say, but I tried to throw everything in there that I could think of. But I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think it's worth like destroying gaming quality for the sake of being able to buy and sell in-game assets for real money? Like, do you care that do you need to be able to sell particular versions of Mario's hat from Mario Odyssey and say that you exclusively own this? Or is it better that anybody who plays Mario Odyssey can have a particular Mario hat if they play it and earn the in-game currency and buy it instead? Like, I don't know about you, but I would rather pay $60 for Mario Odyssey and then only need the in-game currency that you earn by just walking around the world to unlock cosmetics than it would to have to worry about who owns what particular outfit and how much they're charging for it. But anyway, that's all I got to say. I hope that I hope at some point that there will be some kind of regulation of this, because anything that's unregulated is too chaotic. Like I pointed out to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, where they can just say something and cause the presumed value of it to either drop or skyrocket based on how that one particular person feels. Like, that's a lot of power. And it's very similar as well to like Disney having a chokehold on copyright. Winnie the Pooh is now public domain, but not Disney's Winnie the Pooh. And if Disney thinks that your version of Winnie the Pooh that you write is too similar to theirs, well, they can sue you. And to bring this up, because I wanted to bring it up too, is like, again, when the powerful control everything and they don't care, like for people who love anime and Dragon Ball and One Piece, Totally Not Mark had his YouTube channel. A lot of his reviews that he put out for Dragon Ball and One Piece got blocked worldwide by Toei because he used footage from their show in their review, which is supposed to fall under fair use because he reviewed it. He gave an in-depth analysis of the show, and even of stuff like the music in the show and what it represents, and did in-depth breakdowns of various things within the stories and gave his opinions of them, which is what you're supposed to do with a review. And despite his plea, Toei's probably not going to give him his reviews back because of piracy. But anyway, I got to end this video. It's been 45 minutes. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys at least enjoyed listening to this really long rant. I didn't intend for it to be this long. But as always, like and subscribe. Support the channel if you can. Check out all my other videos. It's a new year. We'll see what we can do going forward. Hopefully it won't have to do with buying and selling Mario's hat or Sora's shoes or Link's shield in-game for real money. Anyway, till next time, later.